What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Second Floor Podcast. It's your co-host here, Kenny Buller. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate each and every single one of you who have continuously been listening to our show. And for those of you who are new, welcome to tuning in. We talk about how to survive, how to thrive, and how to keep the good vibes going in life and business. In today's episode, we talk about the importance behind branding and promoting some of the products and services you have, that you give to your customers and that you give to other people. One of the biggest life lessons that I learned out of this conversation was how you're not only giving a product, you're giving an experience. And this was brought to you by the one and only Brittany H., who is the CEO of Fox and Forth Branding and Promotions. We talk and solve some of the key aspects behind what is the importance of branding, why you should think twice and think carefully about what the name of your brand really is going to be. And we sort of dive deep into some of the precautions you should be aware of if you choose to change the name of your brand. We also get a pretty exciting opportunity to learn about what a branding strategy really means in the world of 2020 today. And we get to hear it from an expert and none other than Brittany H. herself. So without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome, Brittany, to the Second Floor Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. It's awesome to have you. I know for a fact that it's been a long time coming since we wanted you to be here and share some of your insight with us on Fox and Forth Promotion and Design.
Yeah.
I would like to have you start off by telling us just a little bit about what Fox and Forth is. For some of the audience members listening to this, Brittany actually helped collaborate with us on getting these hoodies out there. So with the material of the hoodie, with everything from the actual colors we chose of the hoodie and the design of it, you really helped us out. So thank you.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, Fox and Forth is a promotions company, and we like to attack, anything branded, from hoodies, pens, mugs, whatever you can think of, even custom projects. But we do it from a strategic way, because we believe that if you are spending your money on something, you should be getting the best bang for your buck. So we also do graphic design and strategic planning in-house. So when we work with our clients, we can bring them the best ideas possible.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I find it's really neat when you realize the amount of emphasis there is now on branding yourself and merchandising some of your apparel, for instance, if we start there, to have the look and feel of what you're already putting out there.
Yeah.
I know for a fact, as much as we aren't a hoodie brand, it was just really cool to be able to attach a hoodie as a way to showcase our podcast.
Right. And I'm sure you guys are developing a fan base, and it was important for me to work with you and get you the right fabric, the right sizing for your print, so it didn't look silly. Yeah. Because I know that that's what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to create a community. So if we can help you do that, then why not, right?
Totally. What do you think is when you look at a pen, for instance, right? Because I know that's one hot commodity you guys have where you can brand pens. If you can essentially give me your sales pitch, or even just in general, why you believe there's an importance of branding a pen, as something as small as that, to have your logo and name on it.
Yeah. And this is often something that people don't think about, but our brains are wired to, when you give something to someone, your brain automatically says, oh, I have to give something back to them. So whether it be a thank you gift, a pen at a trade show, a hoodie example, you're doing it, something switching in someone's brain from it's called reciprocity. So when you give something to someone, they feel like they need to give something back to you. And that might not be business. That might come in the form of a referral. It might come in the form of an introduction, but it's always good to make someone feel like they are part of your team. And I do that a lot with promotional products. Anytime, any verbiage we use, it's always welcome to the family. I've grown up in a big Italian family, so, for me, that verbiage is really good. Everyone has a seat at my table, and I want my clients to feel that. And they feel it through gifts and cool stuff we give out.
I love that. And you know what? I am very happy to say that I've even personally experienced that with you,
Yeah.
right? Like I remember our last meeting where we pretty much signed off on everything and we were ready to make the order happen.
Yeah.
You were just like, Kenny, one sec. Like, let me just give you something. And you gave me a super kick-ass Fox and Forth
Right.
coffee mug, right? And funny enough, every time I actually go grab it for my coffee, I remember you,
Right.
right? I remember that great experience. I remember how just smart of even naturally a tactic that is to have someone remember that moment they had with you, but also it puts that brand in front of them.
Well, and that's it, right? Like we work with our clients on not only giving out product, but giving out an experience.
Yeah.
So I always tell the story of like the first promo product my company ever did. So we did a yo-yo, a classic wooden yo-yo,
Nice.
because I know that my target client are people who grew up playing with yo-yos. So when I was giving these out to my clients, they were sending me like videos of competitions and like they were going so crazy. And it was a good tactic on our part because then now they're thinking about, oh, I need something cool to give out. Who am I going to call? I'm going to call the girl who gave me the yo-yo.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all about creating that for our clients and making sure that they are the top mind.
That's unique. So can a client at that point, Brittany, go to you and say, hey, like we want to put our, let's say, logo on something as unique as a yo-yo. I can't obviously think of an idea right now, but let's say, even for instance, like we'll go wild. We'll think of that vase for that plant.
Yep.
If someone was to, or vase, I think that's the way we say it,
vase.
right? I tend to do that with
You're
words
good,
sometimes.
you're good.
But let's say that vase, I wanted my logo on that. Is that something you guys could customize?
Yeah, you know, I've done projects. I've done off the wall projects. Like I have a big construction company here in Edmonton I work with. And one year they came and they're like, we need something for our office that like totally speaks to us. What you got? So what I did was I found a local concrete molder in Edmonton. We molded these custom concrete bowls for each office across Canada.
Wow.
And we got their logo etched in the bottom of the bowl. And now it sits in every one of their offices across Canada. And that's something that is totally unique. You can't buy it off of a shelf. It was totally made for them. And it sits there. And that's probably one of the craziest projects I've probably worked on just because of like, you know, where do you find a concrete molder guy?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I had to dig into my contacts for that one. But it's something that I can talk about on like how creative we are. So it's a win-win story.
Yeah, wow. It's almost like there's that aspect of strategy and planning and essentially coming up with those neat little ways of getting that brand out there, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot of strategy. I would think probably more than what people think.
Yeah, totally. I want to know, especially when it comes down to what you do, which is that aspect, right? The strategy comes in with that, blends in so nicely. But then it's who you know. And I love how you mentioned how you need to tap into your network.
Yeah.
If you're willing to share even outside of that one experience where it's so important for you or even just anyone in general, right? Because we care a lot, obviously, about our audience members realizing that networking is really important. We've talked about that a lot with some of our guests we've brought on the show. But even for you, how is networking and even just, I remember before we went live, you were sharing how you're in contact with a lot of entrepreneurs right now.
Yeah.
Whether that's even for the sake of a deal that's happening or not, how has that sort of helped you get to where you're at now?
You know, I think coming into business, so like I said, my business this month is 3 years old. So we're third year birthday, but I remember year one and it being completely overwhelming because, yeah, you know, I've been in the promotions industry for 11 years, but all of a sudden I start my own company and I'm the bookkeeper, I'm the accountant, I'm the HR person, I'm the everything. So I found it so helpful to put myself out there and network just for those reasons, because as an entrepreneur, you can feel really lonely because no one really knows your struggle. So to align yourself with other entrepreneurs, like they get you, right? They speak your language. So I just made it a point to like network as much as possible. And I still make a point to do it, right?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I find it's neat when you realize if you can slightly, obviously as you build your business up, have a fundamental understanding of each and every single little component of your business,
Yeah.
but then realize that you're going to reach a point where you have to delegate.
Yeah, and hire the professionals that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
What does that look like right now for you and your team, if you don't mind me asking? Like, how many people do you have under you now?
Yeah, so I have just a graphic designer and admin just because of the whole COVID stuff.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I'm okay with it. Smaller team. I don't need to have like a 30-person team to know that I'm successful.
Yeah.
And they just handle, you know, like the admin stuff. So if I'm with a client, they handle admin. If I need designs done, we talk about those concepts and what that looks like. So I'm happy with the small team, and, you know, one day we'll grow again, but we just had to adjust due to the times.
Yeah. No, that's so true. Right now we're living in a fortunately very interesting time where
Crazy world.
you have to put a pause on some things, and then you have to innovate in other ways.
Right.
With everything that's been happening for you, Brittany, is there anything that you did slightly like change or add to the product mix?
Yeah, oddly enough, we added an apparel line. So, I mean, obviously being in the promotions industry, you have access to apparel, but one day I was watching the news and a nurse came on and she said, I just finished my 14-hour shift and I went to go sit with a gentleman so he could not pass away alone.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like that hit me in the heart. And I couldn't, like, for me, I love people. I love being around people. I don't know what that would do to my mental health if I had to go sit with someone while they passed away.
Totally.
But not only that, like there's so many entrepreneurs right now that they don't know if they're going back to their businesses.
Yeah.
They've kind of shut the doors and they don't know if it's for good or for now. So I was thinking like that takes a lot out of someone's mental health. So we started Frontliner Apparel, and it's like a casual lounge at home brand aimed towards helping out our frontliners. And so some proceeds of the clothing line, whatever we sell, will go to the Canadian Mental Health Association, because
Nice.
what happens after this, right? Like,
yeah.
who do they go to, you know, get right?
Yeah. Wow.
So we started that, and we're just, you know, putting the feelers out there on social media, and if it works, then great.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
you have the team and the resources to
Yeah,
be able
exactly,
to make this,
right? Like we thought, okay, what's gonna kind of support our business in the short term, and how can we support, you know, the frontliners and everyone that's doing so much for us right now? So it was it kind of worked out good.
Yeah, wow. That's so nice of you guys to do that.
Yeah.
To really relate on knowing what that feels like for anyone going through this.
Right.
I mean, sure enough, God bless your friend who ended up having to do that and wanting to do that, to be with an individual.
Yeah, it was
that
actually
long.
some nurse on the news. So
Oh, wow.
just watching that story, that was like, oh my God, you like wake up call, right? So,
Yeah. And then you realize for a lot of us, you made a great point where entrepreneurs we're not too sure when we could get back to normal, to obviously the money that was coming in to live up to the life we were living. Like
Right.
that's just one facet of it,
Yeah.
right? But a whole other thing is, I was talking with my team about this. We were sitting down with our team in our meeting today, and I was like, guys, I get it. Like it feels like we're in jail, but we have no idea how long we're going to be in
Right.
jail for, right? I mean, it'd be great, especially on everyone's mental health, if we know that, hey, by this date, everything's gonna be
Then
back to normal.
great. Yeah, right.
And then yesterday I was having a conversation with my brother, and I was like, you know what, man? I think even when things go back to normal, quote unquote, it won't be the same as it was before.
No way.
Right? And that's why I find it even very important to start even being able to provide some things online. I know you were kind of talking about using like Zoom calls, for instance.
Yeah,
right?
Zoom's a big one. I mean, like we've kind of always been online based. Like we have a shop now on our website that you can go and do that. But we really like to just like sit with our clients, and like I'm a people person.
Yeah.
So to, like we said, like getting that interaction and seeing someone's face, it's totally different than being on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
So we do it when we have to, but I would definitely prefer to get back to normal so
Yeah,
we
no,
can
totally.
see.
Cross our fingers.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Be like that, you know, in the same room.
Totally.
Because it's like for meeting with someone and doing a brand session, like they just have like a passion about them that you can't really get on a Zoom call, right?
Yeah.
So
No, I agree.
I love it.
What does that actually begs me to ask, what does that brand session look like? I know I obviously got a little bit of a taste of it.
Yeah.
But typically, if you're willing to share, when a client obviously is interested in any merchandise or designing from you guys, what does that session look like? What are some of the important questions that would be interesting to know from our audience's perspective that you ask?
Yeah. So when we go into a branding session, it's usually an hour and a half of sitting together in a room, going through, like who they are, where their business is, where they want to see their business in the future. And then there's a list of probably like 100 questions we really go through. And sometimes we don't ask them all. Sometimes we get it right away. And other times you really need to like just pull that out of someone, because even me, I do it myself, is like branding. I can brand anyone and we can talk about it for days with anyone else, like anyone else's company. When someone asks me what I want, I'm like, I really have to have like someone like pulling it out of me. So and I have clients like that where, we're talking about like where their business is going and like if they're switching their target market from one person to another, like how we're going to do that. Yeah. And just how they stay top of mind. But it's those questions that are so important, because it's not just creating a logo or picking a color. Yeah. Right? There's so much mental stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
There's tons. And you're making me think of two things, because I know how much thought you put into your logo, right? And I'd love for you to share that. But then also it's the reality of the amount of depth that one person needs to go into creating it. And I find a lot of people knowing that, they don't end up doing it at all.
No. Right? And what's funny is we have like people that'll come to us in like their second or third year of business and be like, I messed up. I don't know why I did this logo. I just wanted to get stuff going. I don't know why my company is this name. And we're like, okay, we can help you.
Like the rebranding.
Yeah. But also like if I have any advice for anyone starting a business, like sit down, breathe, and do it right. Yeah. Because in your third year of business, you've already developed so much brand recognition from everyone you've talked to and had relationships with. So to rebrand on your third year, like if you can do it right from the beginning, then
big
just
risk, right?
Do it right.
I really appreciate you saying that, because I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Changing your name is pretty much like starting back to day zero.
Oh, exactly, right?
Because people, let's just say Instagram, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
We've been Second Floor Podcast for the past, let's say, just about 2 years.
Right.
And we decided to change our name to Elevate. People will then be like, well, Elevate, who are these guys? I didn't know I was following these guys.
Totally.
Or it's just, it's very neat for when you continuously, say your slogan, say your name. People recognize that, right?
Totally.
But then, again, going back to your point where, let's say for the person who no longer, let's say, associates or believes in that name and they want to change it, how do you deal with that change management? Like, it seems like you need to ask them to essentially sleep on it. It'd be like, are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah, and I think if someone's coming to you and they're like, nope, like, we want to scrap it, it's gone, then that's fine. But you have to transition it in the right way then, so people are still identifying with who you are. Like, you build a brand that associates with, whatever your new culture is. But the transition needs to be almost connected to the old brand until you're ready to let it go and people know what your new brand is.
Yeah.
So.
I like that. It's almost like you need to still tap into the story you've been building and have it still resonate with your audience. It can't be too left field.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it's like getting a new suit, right? Like you're still the same guy, but now you look sharper, right?
I like that. It's tailored, it's fit, it's cut.
Exactly.
Well, it always brings me back to how we've sort of adapted along the way with the podcast, because now that we've been 2 years in, Brittany, we've had to look back and be like, okay, well now Second Floor has a whole lot bigger of a deeper meaning to us now through the stories that have come along the way.
Totally.
With the amount of people that have taken it to the second floor, who have really, elevated in life. And then along the way, we were able to actually figure out our mission statement and our purpose. Right. That didn't come first, right? I feel like the name, to your point, you figure that out first, because without a name, you don't want to be a no-name brand.
Exactly.
Right? But then I want to know, in your perspective, where does that name come from? It'd be really neat to know, like, if someone's like, they're losing sleep. They're not even starting their business because of that. Yeah. And I know some people have actually, they've even said, I heard on Lewis Howes' podcast, he had one person in the audience. She's like, I know what I want to do, but I haven't started it because I don't know the name and I don't know what it's going to be called. Right. So what do you think someone kind of needs to do or ask themselves to figure that out?
I think like hiring a professional like to have a brand session to, you know, pull, like, because I feel like the people who are stuck, who don't know, really do need that brand session, right? Like, it's not an easy thing. Like, some people are so good with numbers, but they're so bad with like the creative side or seeing like things come to life, where, you know, like we work in this every day, right? Like we see it big picture and then we take it step by step on how to get there. And I think if you're really struggling, then link up with a marketing professional, you know, and they might be in your contacts, or, you know, you might need to source it out. But if you take the time to plan it out, then you're not struggling with like a rebrand later, right?
Yeah, I really like that. And I second that because we've done that ourselves and
Yeah.
it helps tremendously.
Well, and
Right.
sometimes like I said, we look at our businesses from the inside out, but when you work with someone, they're looking from the outside in. So it's a totally different perspective.
Yep, that's so true. Because because you have it all in your head, it's all figured out.
Oh,
But not
totally.
everyone's going to be able to read and be able to translate that into what you're trying
Or
to
make
do.
it visual, right? Like that's what we all are trying to do, is just tell our stories visually.
Yeah, and
So.
that's where kind of that logo comes in, right?
Exactly.
So from your own experience, this is
Yeah.
what we're all excited to hear, is how did Fox and Forth come about name-wise and the way that the brand looks?
Wow. So we decided, oddly enough, like we're like entrepreneurs, like just starting out. We didn't even have an office. We were like in a Starbucks, and we were like, what are we gonna name our company? Like, we know that we want to do this, and we were looking at majority of people in our field, and it's like either someone's last name, or it's like 1, 2, 3 t-shirts, or print me now t-shirts, and I'm like, nope. Like,
Too basic.
I know that I don't want, like, that's not where I see my company going, right? I wanted to grow it to like a marketing house, right? Like we are a brand house. So I was like, we need something a little bit more flexible. And so my maiden name in Italian means fox. And my old business partner at the time, her last name was Proudfoot, so to come forth. So we were like, well, we should play on that. And then I'm like, well, what about like Fox and Forth? And then poof, it just like it came together. I know it's like
that.
not like a super intricate planning story, but we even have like in our ampersand on our logo, we have the foxtail, and we use that a lot for branding because people like will know it and see it and be like, oh, that's Fox and Forth. So having those little things in your logo is important.
Yeah. And you know what's it's so funny, and I find it's neat to know your story and then associate it with how I perceived it and how I got excited, because now, since we introduced our new series, the Jungle series, as you can see around you, there's a lot of animals just floating about on the walls, right? So then when I saw your brand, and I remember at the time it was a good connect of yours, you know, and still shout out to your ability to connect with entrepreneurs, because I'm sure if you didn't do that, this probably wouldn't have happened. Yeah. I connected with him and he says, I know just the perfect person for you. She's local. She'll be able to help you out. I'll connect you with her. And I was like, sure, no problem. I trust your word. But then when he told me that it's Brittany from Fox and Forth, immediately, just from the name, I was like, oh, you know what? This is meant to be. You know, she likes animals. We like animals. We're in the jungle, and we want to be able to connect with someone who obviously appreciates that. Right. But now to know that it comes from the element of where the last name means, it's still cool to kind of see, you know, how I perceived it and how anyone else will, right? And I find that's another important thing, is realizing that your brand can even mean so many different things to other people.
Yeah, which is crazy. Like, I have a friend, and there's like the word savage in her business name. And when she was starting out, she was super concerned that that was like an offensive thing, right? And I was like, well, I mean, like the people who are going to buy your products are like going to understand why you're using that in your name. And then, you know, like that's one thing, like not everyone is your market. If I could say that a million times, you cannot market to everybody. Like, I agree. You have to find out who that niche is, because otherwise it's just like a wild game of like chase the turkey. Like you are just going crazy.
And I've really been playing with that lately. I'm starting to really understand that as broad as you want to get, find exactly who you are trying to help. Find
or who you best work with, right? Like, that's so important. So, I mean,
it's so true.
I'll say it again for the people in the back, know your market. You can't market to everybody, right?
And how does that work in your world? Because I'm sure we could both argue that, like, well,
Yeah.
branding and promotion, every business needs it.
Yeah.
Do you, in a way, have your niche as far as which businesses you prefer and like to work with, in a sense?
Yeah, like I have clients that I've worked with for like 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And, you know, building those relationships, it always is like, you know, it's blood, sweat, and tears, but that's why you love it, right?
Yeah.
So I would say like our clients that we love working with, like some of my longest clients are like oil field clients, construction clients, energy clients.
Yeah.
And it's because they, like, when you're a company of a certain size, like, you get it. You get that branding is important, but you want to do it right. And you don't want to waste your money on, you know, like just buying something off the internet and hoping that 500 of them show up and they look okay and you can hand them out, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's more, for example, I deal with Clark Builders a lot, and they get it. Like, they give stuff away to their employees all the time because they know if they make them feel like they are part of a team and a community, those employees are going to do good by them.
Yeah.
Right? So it's more than that. Like, when you're a company that gets it, it's just so easy, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, what's the next cool thing we're doing?
Yeah.
You know, and I love that. The creation process is great.
Yeah. The engine keeps moving because once that one
Yeah.
campaign's done, they're ready to come up with the next
Well,
one.
and they're
right?
like, so every January I go to Vegas for like one of the big like promotional trade shows where they launch everything. So they're like, oh, so like, did you go to Vegas? Like, what did you find out? And
Yeah.
like, they're like raring to go, right? Like, they love fresh ideas. And that's why I like working with them, because I can be like, hey, I'm thinking about this for you guys. And they're like, yeah, we love it. And I'm also that person, like, if you hate it, I'm not going to take it personally. Like,
Yeah.
we're just on to the next thing.
Exactly.
Right?
You're open to give suggestions, but also open to,
Totally.
you know, move on if it doesn't essentially fit.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's the fun thing about marketing in itself, right? Like, not everything is going to be a fit.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And I find there's a certain power associated with brainstorming when it comes to that, right?
Yeah.
Where it's never necessarily going to be your first idea.
Totally.
Sometimes you're going to you're going to go on the wall and you are going to spit out as many things as need be, whether it's as close or as far away as what you kind of need to reach.
Well, exactly.
Right? There was this one concept I learned recently, and it helped me better understand and define the power of brainstorming.
Yeah.
And it was called the Dove method. Right now, I can recall what the three letters from the acronym associate with. E, I can't remember right now, but D stands for defer judgment. So anytime you're brainstorming, stop worrying about feeling like you're going to be judged if you put this on the wall.
Right.
Or judging yourself. Just put whatever comes to mind. And then the O is, I believe it was B. I'm trying to remember now. Yeah.
Now we're just putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't recall what O is, but then essentially with deferred judgment and everything else associated with it, Brittany, it is talking about as long as you're brainstorming, be vast. That was what the V stands for. And put as much as you can out there until you literally feel like you can't come up with anything.
Well, totally. Like, I'm sure you've probably had it too, where you've sat in a room with whether it be a client or a team member or something, and you're just like spitting things out, right? Like, and you get that like momentum of like, no matter what we say in this room, it's a safe place. It could be so silly, but we're just going to say it and we're going to put it on the board, and who knows, maybe a great idea will come from it.
Yeah.
So like, I love when I get in a room with a client and we're doing that, right? Like, that becomes like our session where we're just like throwing everything out there. And then finally we'll have like 5 awesome ideas of like campaigns that we're going to do, or, you know, like products that we're going to
you can plan out a whole year just by doing that.
Totally. And we love to do that with our clients, like having like a branding brainstorm where we plan like a whole year out. Those are the best, because then, you know, like 30 days before your event, I'm going to email you, hey, we talked about this. Here's the mock-up. Are we good to go? Yeah, we're good to go. Right. And then it just shows up and it's painless.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I really feel like companies either choose between really outsourcing a lot of these things you mentioned, or they internally have their marketing person.
Right.
And I know when I say marketing person, sometimes, I'm sure as you know, that marketing person is either specialized in one thing and now they're wearing multiple other marketing hats, and they're scrambling.
Yeah.
Right. Or they'll have like a full internal marketing team.
Totally.
Where do you kind of stand with all of that? Like, maybe personally from your own experiences, or just understanding your opinion on it. are there more benefits to externally outsourcing a lot of your marketing material and consulting? It'd be interesting to know where you stand on that.
Yeah, I think it's like a balance of both, right? Like I've worked with some pretty big companies that have their marketing company or marketing like in-house, and then they'll work with us for like their promotional stuff. But if you were talking like as far as like printing and campaigns and product, it's always good to like they can come if they want to come up with the idea, have them come up with the idea, but consult an expert, right? Because for example, a couple months ago we did these mugs and they had like a wrap of every project that this company has done on the mug, but because of the detail in the print, like we weren't sure if it was going to print properly, and they would have just sent it online, sent the file in, got them printed. No one would have said something. They would have got the mugs and it would have been probably mucked up.
Yeah.
But I had to be like, well, wait, like I know from experience, because I've been doing this for 11 years, that we need to check this. So turns out like, yeah, there was too much detail. We had to eliminate some stuff. Or just tweak the design, right? But they turned out amazing. So I'm happy about it. And that was like a success story for them, because if you're ordering hundreds of something, thousands of something, you don't want to get it after the fact.
And then every single one ends up getting ruined, right?
Yeah.
That you make a really good point where it shows that essentially having a second eye, having just an outside source, going back to your point about how different it looks from your perspective, because you're able to see those little nitty gritty things. Well, sometimes you just get so used to seeing something in front of you, it just becomes normal that it's tough to even pay attention to those details that maybe you don't see, but someone else does.
Yeah.
Right. That's where I even started noticing, like, before we decide to execute something new, you do a little market testing, right? Where you ask the 10 top people who listen to your episode, or you ask your close network and you ask them, hey, is this a good idea? And if they don't necessarily, like your top 10 people in your close circle don't really vibe with it, then maybe you should, second guess if it's a good idea or not.
Right. Yeah. Right? Unless you're like trying to tap into a new market, right? Then
as long as they're your niche. If it's not,
if it's not, then you kind of have to give it a little bit more market testing. But for sure, like if you have people that are close to you that you can bounce ideas off of and that use your services, then do that all day long. Like, totally. Whether it be like a MailChimp or like a SurveyMonkey or whatever you send out, like, hey, like, what do you think about this? Should we get this service? Should we offer this? That is going to be valuable to you anytime.
Yeah. Who better than your own clientele to ask?
Totally.
Day, right?
I mean, they're already your fans, right? Like, so, their opinion matters. Their seat at the table matters, right?
Yeah. No, that's so true. I like that. I wanted to ask you, I know we slightly breezed over it, but it would be nice if someone listening to this right now is looking at their logo, or they're potentially considering a logo.
Yeah.
Or even the creation of their name, going back to our points about that. What do you think, in your opinion, is going to make a great logo and brand? Maybe a few points. And then what do you think is something where you're like, you know what, if it entails this, or if it's missing this, then it's not good? Yeah. Kind of like the pluses and the minuses in your opinion.
I'm a really big fan. I mean, like you've seen our logo. It's pretty simple, simplistic. It's classic. I'm a really big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of like a logo with like 100 colors in it. Maybe that's just because I come from like a print background. That's always like harder. But I love like a classic looking clean logo. Also, if you were thinking of like a business name, it can't be too wordy. Like I had a flyer come to my house the other day, and this landscaping company was like, that's the longest name. And I was like, oh my God, I just want to call them and be like, can I just like talk to you for a second? Because like, I'm like, oh, that's
who's going to remember this?
Exactly. That's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to be memorable. So if your name is a full sentence, like that's going to be pretty hard to market yourself, find a Facebook page, even a Twitter handle, there's some things that just probably won't happen.
Wow. I like that. Now no, I feel like you answered both in that sense.
I mean, like stay away from like super wordy stuff. You can have a tagline.
Yeah, like a slogan.
Right? A slogan is great if you really feel like it needs to be said. But have something initially short. Like if it is more than like 4 words, I would
Yeah.
Probably not. Probably not visit that.
Second floor podcast. I hope we're okay.
Yeah, we made it.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to take the next little bit here, Brittany, to more dissect the psychology of why you essentially are doing what you do. And that's really huge for us because we talk a lot about, do what you're good at, do what you're passionate about and do what you feel like is going to make the world you live in slightly different for the better.
Totally.
Right? And that's a concept that our personal selves have been gaining from Ikigai. It's a Japanese concept, and it was said by Chris Do, someone who is a big influencer, and we really appreciate some of the things he says.
Okay.
So he brought that upon us, and we were like, okay, does our podcast and what we do check off all the boxes, right? And for you, I want to know, like, why did you choose this as your career path? Because it's interesting to know that even 3 years before, you were already in promotions, you're in marketing and design. What is it that every day you wake up and you're like, this is why I do it?
I've always been kind of a creative person. Like, that kid that took like the extra art classes and, like loved to create things. But originally out of high school, I worked in finance and I was like, wow, this is not for me, Yeah. So in the world of promotions, I started out with pretty small projects. And I think like what really, one project I did where I was like, oh my God, this could like be so cool is I did t-shirts for Google. So I did some t-shirts for Google.
Nice. Wow.
So one day I was like the last one at the office on a Friday at like 4:00 and I got this like call and I was still like transitioning from like warehouse help to sales. It was like really weird. Yeah. But I answered this call and it was this girl from Google in California. Yeah. And she was like, we can't find anyone here to print these t-shirts for our Bring Our Kids to Work Day. Like, are you guys able to do screen print, but a 4-color process? And like, thank God, like we were like a huge printing company in Edmonton because we figured it out how to like Pantone match their colors. And it was like a whole process. Plus you're doing it for Google. So there's like an extra weight on your shoulders. And then the t-shirts turned out great. They loved them. And I was like, oh my God, like that was my first like thing with like a huge company and it was Google. And so I think I was hooked ever since then. Yeah. And then just watching, whether it be like a promotional thing that we send out or like just watching those projects come to life. Like we did the rebrand for the Italian festival last year. And that was probably one of my proudest moments, just going there and seeing like all the signage we did and all the design and everything just coming together. Like that is what drives me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. It paints the picture literally.
Yeah.
Right? Of seeing end to end what you've been able to do, what you've been able to really put out there visually.
Yeah. And I think like that's why I love experience marketing so much is because you see it. It comes to life. And I always say like, it's my job to help my clients grow their business because when they grow, my business grows. And as long as I'm producing great things, great quality, great design, then that's me helping you. Yeah. Right? So let's do it. Let's grow a business, right?
I love that. No, that's so exciting. I can't wait. You're making me want to have like another merchandise made from you. Like next is coffee cups, I swear.
Yeah. Let's do it.
No, but it's good, right? Because it's such a value add, right? For Again, sure. I loved your point in the beginning when you talked about Brittany saying how you have something to give someone. Right. I think the power of that in the exchange and the, hey, here's what you already come for us for, right? You listen to our episodes or you know what, here, we're a construction company. We've built this property. Thank you. Thank you for believing in us. Here's this pen. Here's this notebook. Yeah. Here's this hoodie to help you remember us. And you're creating, in a sense, affiliates of your brand.
Totally.
And I see that even through just apparel companies. Like it's amazing how if people understand the message of what you're doing and why you do it, they will be believers. They'll purchase every single product you end up coming out with.
Well,
as long as you care about what it is you're representing.
Right. And branding is always a story. No matter if you're giving out a pen, it's part of your story. If you're giving out a hoodie, it's if you're doing signage, it's part of your story. It's just some companies have a really hard time knowing what all of that looks like. And that's my job, right? Yeah. Like they come to us and they're like, yeah, like we do signage, we do hoodies, we do all this stuff, but there's like some kind of disconnect there.
Yeah.
Well, the strategy just isn't there, right? Like, why are you doing mugs? You probably would have, if you're a construction company, a better bang if you were doing hats.
Yeah.
Like there's different, like a pen is probably not right for every company.
Mm-hmm.
So that is my job to be like, hold on, wait. If we're putting your marketing dollars towards this, let's make sure that it's like the best thing it can be.
I love that. And I acknowledge you for that, because I bet you not every single person who can use this as any other profitable gain to their business would look at it like that.
Yeah.
So
And
that's really awesome.
It's not like we don't have people that come to us and are like, nope, I want pens. I need 500. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, sure, all day long. But there are people that, recognize that they need a little bit more help. And we're definitely there. Like, I'm certified in market strategy. So like, let's do it. Let's use the tools that I have to benefit you.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
You have clearly the experience, but also all facets and components that need to be included in your branding and promotion business to not only just give someone an end product, but to guide them through that full cycle.
Totally.
From the beginning of, here's the planning stages, all the way through, let's explore what that looks like, to getting you what you need.
Yeah. And then
awesome.
We revisit it, right? Like, did that work? Did it not work? Like, what can we do differently? What can we do to amplify it and make it better?
Yeah.
Like, how do we turn these targets that you have into a community, into loyal followers, right? And that's what it's all about. It's about having them believe in your story, believe in your journey, and be your number one fan.
Wow. No, that is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, coming closer to the end here, one thing we pointed out was our mission, right? Yeah. And that's something we strongly have figured out as far as, who's been listening to us, what is something they're looking for. And if we could bring it back to our mission where we talk about empowering thrivers in our community to turn their passion into a profitable career path. Mm-hmm. When you were at that stage where I believe you were probably, let's do the math, about 8 years into what you do, working for a company, just working through the trenches, gaining experience, it could have been your choice. You could have saw the ladder. You could have worked your way up. Probably would have been a lot less stressful, I'm sure. But then you saw how much you loved it and how good you are at it, that you were ready to take the leap, which you did. And right. I'm so proud you did that. What was it that you felt like you needed to tell yourself, or at that time, when at that 8-year mark, you're like, you know what? Ready, set, go. I'm doing this. I'm diving in, and I'm not going to look back if that's the case. And I know there's a lot of answers you could kind of come up with here.
So many.
And if you could even just go back to that time, Brittany, where you did decide to make this your own business, and how you did that.
Yeah. So I was just getting antsy, right? Like, I was in promotions for a long time, and I knew it's what I love to do. I knew I wanted to expand it into more strategy and marketing focused, and the company I was working for wasn't doing that. And so I was like, oh, what am I going to do? So I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my own thing. What I did was I made the decision to do it. And then I saved up for the next 6 months and just like banked as much money as I could, because, you don't know, you hit the ground running or you hit the ground kind of walking, right?
Yeah, so true.
You don't know. So I saved up money, and then I, quit where I was working and got a part-time job and just like started. I emailed my clients and mailed. So what I actually did was I mailed my clients a letter, like a physical paper letter. And it said, hey, we're Fox and Forth now. We do this, and this. We're ready to work with you. Look forward to continuing our working relationship. And we mailed them all a letter.
Nice.
Then for people who didn't respond via email or say like, oh my God, congratulations, we sent the same letter, but crumpled up and ripped and torn and looked like it had been thrown in the garbage. And we sent it out again. And we sent this letter saying, with a little sticky note on it, why'd you throw my letter in the garbage?
Oh, wow. That's creative.
And then so one of my clients called me and they're like,
that's different.
Oh man, like you totally tripped me out about this. Like, like you're going through my garbage. Like, what's going on? And I'm just like, no, like it was just a tactic. And he's like, no, like awesome. Like, I'm so glad you're doing what you got to do. And
you went the extra mile.
Yeah. And it's just, that's what it's about, right? Like, that's what it's about for me and my clients. Like, if we can get those people to stop and like pattern interrupt their day, That's what I live for. Like, let's do it. Let's give them an experience. They're going to be like, what? Like, so many people are like, yeah, you went through my garbage? Like,
They're confused.
what's going on? Why did I get this? So, that was like one of the things that like, I was like, whoa, that was pretty, I pat myself on the back for that one. It was pretty interesting. But, it's just creating that pattern interrupt in their head. Just they'll remember me, right?
Yes. That is awesome. You were able to create a moment where you are going to think outside the box.
Yeah. And I think like that's so important for someone who is starting a company. Because we all know that like sometimes you decide to start a company and you have no idea where your contacts are going to come from, where your clients are going to come from. So just sitting down with someone and strategically planning your plan of attack can definitely make a difference.
Wow. And then you realize to, in a sense, don't be like everyone else, right?
Well,
your plan of attack comes off naturally, and it actually comes off to your advantage when no one else essentially has done that attack before.
Right. Yeah. So like a lot of people in my field will send like a branded pen or a branded hat or something to them, right? Like we wanted to be a little bit different because that's what we are. We are different. Mm-hmm. So, so the steps I took was decide you're going to do it, save up money, sit in a Starbucks and create your name or talk to a professional, like there was just like, once I decided I was going to do it, I was like, there's no turning back for me.
I love that.
Right.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I know that gets down to the personal aspect of why you do things. That's pretty cool. We ask every guest this, Brittany, and we're going to ask you, is now that you have an understanding of, what it takes, and what it takes from your personal experience to be on the second floor, and then now being acknowledged on the Second Floor podcast, we talk a lot about that being that you're someone who has taken it to the next level, clearly, with everything that you said, and you've capitalized on your passion. What is it going to take our audience from your perspective and your opinion for them to take it to the next level?
As an entrepreneur, it can get really hard. Like, just don't stop believing in yourself, because you wouldn't have started this journey if, you didn't want to do it. So, those times when you're like, I don't know if I can, wake up another day and do this again, like you've already came this far. And that's what I like. Sometimes I have those moments too. Like even in my third year of business, I'm like, I don't know. But I'm like, man, I came this far. Yeah. Like I can't, it's my baby. I've watched it grow now. So if I could tell anyone, if they're like concerned about where they are or they're stressing out about it, just have a conversation with another entrepreneur, because they get your pain. They get where you're coming from. They get it. Yeah. So make friends with the other entrepreneurs. It'll save you so much heartache.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. They understand where you're coming from.
Don't they?
Right.
For sure.
They're going through it as well every single day. They're living in that uncertainty. I don't know where I heard it from, but I love this. I think you're going to like it too. Yeah. It reminds me of what you said, is as we are currently living in a time of uncertainty, we should respect and understand the fact that entrepreneurs feel that way every day.
Oh, totally.
Right? Where, to your point, you have to be comfortable with waking up tomorrow and knowing that you could put 16 hours of work in and maybe nothing happen out of it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like in my first year, like that was a lot of my first year. And I was like, man, what am I doing? Yeah. But then you just like, like your heart's in it. Yeah. So I just like devoted myself to like talking with entrepreneurs. Like they can teach you a lot. Like I have lots of entrepreneurs that aren't in marketing. But man, like if I have a bookkeeping question, you best bet like some of them can answer that,
you know who to call, right?
Which is amazing, because I'm definitely not a bookkeeper. I'm definitely a marketer. So.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that is awesome.
Yeah.
When it comes to people listening to this, Brittany, and when they're excited to connect with you, I understand. I just want to confirm that you service out your clientele across the world.
Yep.
Right. So you spoke about your New York experience and all of that. Mm-hmm. How can people find you and Fox and Forth to connect with you?
Yeah. So we are on Instagram, Fox and Forth. Also on Facebook as Fox and Forth. We're everywhere as Fox and Forth. You can also add me on LinkedIn, Brittany Volpe on LinkedIn.
Perfect platform to connect with entrepreneurs as well.
Absolutely. Got to mention that LinkedIn.
There you go. And is there anything else that you would like to mention or say anything that you felt like we missed or talk about at this given time.
Yeah, no, I think like if you're an entrepreneur out there and you're just like, even if you are in your first year, like definitely like feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah.
Like I will talk you off that ledge. You're in it for a reason, and let's talk about what that reason is, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. You know what? As we come to the conclusion, I just want to say, Brittany, it's been a huge pleasure having you on. I'm a big believer in not only being able to see what someone has done, but if I've been able to have the opportunity to experience it myself,
Yeah.
and see before my own eyes like how special that really is, then I'll do so. And I'm glad that I was actually able to connect with you because I got to be that client with you. And along the way, I find that you're, outside of even everything you said, you're very punctual, you respond on time, you genuinely do give your recommendations. And I understand sometimes how hard that is because that takes your own time out of your day, that takes your expertise. And sometimes even though that's not what the person immediately paid for, you're so willing and able to do it because you love what you do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the service you get.
Yeah, no, totally. So anyone out there, if you need hoodies, pens, you name it, merchandise, expertise on marketing, Brittany is the one to reach out to.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.